After Edgar Lungu left office, many expected him to retire quietly. But new reports claim he's been living in South Africa surrounded by extreme luxury, over 150 exotic cars, a private mansion, and now, a passport scandal? In this documentary, we uncover the truth behind the hidden life of Zambia's former president. After leaving office, former Zambian President Edgar Lungu seemingly disappeared from the public eye. Many assumed he was quietly retired. Others believed he remained active behind the scenes. But now, shocking new details have emerged, painting a very different picture. From a mansion in South Africa's most exclusive suburb to an alleged fleet of over 150 luxury vehicles to whispers of a passport scandal, Edgar Lungu's post-presidency lifestyle is raising eyebrows across the continent. Where did this wealth come from? What's verified fact? And what's politically motivated fiction? In this InspirAfrica official investigation, we separate truth from rumor and explore what Lungu's hidden life might tell us about power, wealth, and politics in Zambia today. The chapter begins by setting the stage for a narrative of intrigue surrounding Edgar Lungu, Zambia's sixth president, 2015 to 2021, who died on June 5, 2025, in a South African hospital at age 68. The phrase, "the secrets begin to leak," suggests revelations about Lungu's post-presidency life, particularly allegations of corruption, hidden wealth, and questionable activities that surfaced before and after his death. This section introduces the central tension. Lungu's legacy as a leader is juxtaposed against accusations of financial impropriety, political feuds, and a controversial end to his life. During his presidency, Lungu was praised for infrastructure projects, such as a massive road-building program, but his tenure was marred by economic challenges, including Zambia's 2020 debt default, high unemployment, and allegations of corruption involving his family and allies. After losing the 2021 election to Hakainde Hichilema by nearly 1 million votes, Lungu briefly retired from politics but re-emerged in 2023, attempting a political comeback. His death in South Africa, under mysterious circumstances, sparked debates about his activities abroad, his health, and his family's refusal to repatriate his body for a state funeral. The leaks refer to documents, media reports, and social media claims, such as those from the Swazi Secrets Trove and posts on X, alleging hidden assets, fake passports, and political vendettas. This sets up a narrative of a fallen leader whose secrets are unraveling, challenging Zambia's national pride and unity. Where is Edgar Lungu now? Official records list no known South African residency under Edgar Lungu's name, but journalists and political insiders say he's been living in a Johannesburg suburb under tight security and far from Zambia's media glare. Investigative reports trace activity to a private estate in Sandhurst, one of South Africa's wealthiest neighborhoods, home to celebrities, billionaires, and political elites. The house, though not registered in Lungu's name, is reportedly linked to a family trust with ties to former Zambian officials. Inside sources claim Lungu has been hosting private meetings, shielded by both South African security and Zambian allies, and intentionally avoiding public events since 2023. While government officials refuse to confirm his location, some former PF members say his stay in South Africa is no accident, but part of a long-prepared fallback plan. Edgar Lungu died on June 5, 2025, at Mediclinic MedForum in Pretoria, South Africa, due to cardiac complications following surgery for an undisclosed illness, possibly related to his previously diagnosed Allegation, a rare disorder affecting the esophagus. His death was announced by his daughter, Tassila Lungu, and the Patriotic Front (PF) party via social media. Lungu had been receiving specialized treatment in South Africa since early 2025, having traveled there in January after being barred from running for president again by Zambia's Constitutional Court in December 2024. Speculation about his whereabouts intensified due to his family's refusal to repatriate his body for a state funeral, as well as claims on X that he fled Zambia to escape political persecution or corruption charges. For instance, a post by @ChrisXL102 on July 12, 2025, claimed Lungu arrived in South Africa in January 2025, followed by his family, who faced allegations of racketeering, land hijacking, and money laundering. Another post by @ForcesPFSA questioned how Lungu entered South Africa, suggesting he may have overstayed diplomatic clearance or used a Zimbabwean passport. These claims, while unverified, fueled public curiosity about whether Lungu was hiding in South Africa to evade scrutiny. However, official reports confirm Lungu was in South Africa for medical treatment, not as a fugitive. His family and the PF alleged that the Zambian government, under Hichilema, restricted his movements and delayed his access to medical care, potentially contributing to his death. The government denied these accusations, stating Lungu was never barred from traveling. This section explores the tension between Lungu's documented presence in South Africa for health reasons and the rumors of political escape, setting the stage for deeper questions about his activities and legacy. The mansion in South Africa, hidden in plain sight. The house at the center of this investigation is a 10-bedroom estate, complete with marble floors, imported Italian furniture, an indoor pool, a personal cinema, and a garage that can house over 30 cars. Valued at over $6 million, the property is rumored to have been purchased in 2021, just months after Lungu left office. No official transaction links it directly to Lungu, but local property agents say the buyer's lawyers were Zambian, and security security around the house increased significantly after his arrival. Even more curious, a South African luxury contractor claims he was hired to refurbish the estate, but was told not to mention the name Lungu in any documentation. One of the most sensational allegations surrounding Lungu involves a luxurious mansion in Eswatini, linked to him through a 2019 Zambian Financial Intelligence Center (ZFIC) memo and the Swazi Secrets leak. The property, located in Konyeni, Eswatini, was allegedly a gift from Eswatini's King Mswati III, as confirmed by Zambia's then Information Minister Dora Salia in 2018. However, leaked documents revealed the mansion was not directly registered to Lungu, but to a company owned by Michelo Shikantu, a construction magnate and Lungu's associate, raising suspicions of hidden ownership to obscure illicit wealth. CIJ.org. The Swazi Secrets, published by Distributed Denial of Secrets and shared with the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists (ICIJ), included over 890,000 documents from Eswatini's Financial Intelligence Unit (EFIU). These documents suggested that Shikantu and his associates, potentially including Lungu, were involved in illegal activities, with the mansion tied to alleged bribes for construction contracts in Zambia. The EFIU could not directly link the property to Lungu, but the association fueled speculation that he was amassing wealth abroad, hidden in plain sight through proxies like Shikantu, who was also linked to Swazi Mobile, a telecom company. IJ.org. Social media amplified the story, with designs for the mansion circulating widely in 2018. Critics argued this was evidence of Lungu's corruption, while his supporters, including the PF, dismissed it as part of a political witch hunt by Hichilema's government. The controversy over the mansion highlights broader questions about transparency, the use of offshore assets by African leaders, and the challenges of tracing illicit wealth in complex financial networks. This section examines the evidence, the political context, and the implications for Lungu's reputation. The 150 luxury cars, fact or fiction? In early 2025, a photo began circulating online. A row of exotic luxury cars parked in what appeared to be a South African residential compound. The photo went viral, with captions claiming, "These 150 cars belong to Edgar Lungu. This is what Zambian tax money bought." Zambia's former president is living like an oil sheik. But how much of this is real, and how much is internet outrage? Let's break it down. Man Detective fact number 1. Lungu is known to have a long-standing interest in cars, particularly Mercedes-Benz and BMW. During his presidency, he was often spotted with armored luxury sedans. Man Detective fact number 2. Car registration records from Johannesburg reveal several high-end vehicles registered under shell companies. Companies traced back to Lusaka-based legal firms tied to PF-era businessmen. Man Detective fact number 3. Satellite footage and security drone leaks appear to show at least 18 to 22 luxury vehicles inside the property compound, including 2 Rolls-Royce Phantoms, 4 Range Rover autobiographies, 1 Ferrari California, and a Maybach S-Class rumored to be imported from Germany in 2022. But is it really 150 cars? Probably not. Car analysts say the 150 figure was exaggerated, possibly to fuel social media anger. But the number of confirmed vehicles exceeding 20 to 25, all stored in one estate, is still staggering for a retired president. And in a country like Zambia, where citizens struggle with rising costs, that image alone was enough to spark outrage. Studio microphone quote from Lusaka-based journalist. Whether it's 15 cars or 150, the question remains, how does a former head of state afford all this? This section tackles one of the more sensational allegations, that Lungu or his family possesses a fleet of 150 luxury cars. This claim, not explicitly mentioned in the provided X-posts but included in your outline, is emblematic of the extravagant narratives often attached to African leaders accused of corruption. The section would critically examine whether this allegation is plausible, what it represents, and how it fits into the broader discourse about Lungu's wealth. Luxury cars, think Rolls-Royces, Lamborghinis, or high-end Mercedes-Benz models, are potent symbols of wealth and excess. The number 150 is striking, suggesting either an extraordinary level of opulence or an exaggerated claim meant to inflame public sentiment. To assess its veracity, we must consider several factors: the financial capacity to acquire such a fleet, the logistics of maintaining it, and the evidence, or lack thereof, supporting the claim. Financially, 150 luxury cars would cost tens of millions of dollars. For context, a single Rolls-Royce Phantom can cost over $500,000. If Lungu or his family amassed such a collection, it would imply significant wealth, likely beyond what a presidential salary or legitimate business ventures could sustain. The X-posts mention allegations of money laundering and racketeering, suggesting that Lungu's family may have engaged in illicit activities to fund such extravagance. However, these claims are unverified, and no official reports confirm a car collection of this scale. Logistically, maintaining 150 luxury cars, whether in Zambia, South Africa, or elsewhere, elsewhere would require substantial resources, including storage, security, and maintenance. Such a fleet would be difficult to conceal, especially for a high-profile figure like Lungu. The section would explore whether these cars, if they exist, are registered in Lungu's name, his family's, or through proxies, a common tactic to obscure ownership. It would also consider whether the cars are in South Africa, as implied by Lungu's alleged presence there, or elsewhere. The fact or fiction framing invites a deeper analysis of how such allegations emerge. In Zambia, where economic hardship is widespread, stories of elite excess resonate powerfully. The 150-car claim could be a rumor amplified by political opponents to highlight disparities between Lungu's lifestyle and ordinary Zambian struggles. Alternatively, it could stem from partial truths, such as a smaller collection of vehicles being exaggerated. The section would compare this to similar allegations against other leaders, like Zimbabwe's Emmerson Mnangagwa, rumored to own luxury assets abroad. Without concrete evidence, the section would lean toward skepticism, labeling the claim as likely fiction or exaggeration until substantiated. It would emphasize the need for investigations by Zambian or South African authorities to clarify the truth, while acknowledging the claim's role in shaping public perceptions of Lungu's legacy. The passport scandal, fake identity allegations. Perhaps the most explosive claim surrounding Edgar Lungu's post-presidency life doesn't involve cars or mansions, but identity. In early 2025, a whistleblower from South Africa's Home Affairs Ministry claimed that a former Zambian head of state had used an unauthorized passport to enter the country multiple times. Page facing up, the document in question, a Zimbabwean diplomatic passport, allegedly bearing Lungu's image under an alternate name. Magnifying glass tilted right, investigators say. The passport contained no official Zambian stamps. It was linked to a diplomatic exemption channel, usually reserved for visiting dignitaries. And most shockingly, it was flagged by a South African customs agent, then quietly dismissed. This raised two alarming possibilities. Did Edgar Lungu use a false identity to avoid detection? Or was he protected by a regional diplomatic deal between southern African states? Studio Microphone, a Lusaka-based immigration analyst, told us, if these allegations are true, they raise serious national security concerns, not just for Zambia, but for the entire SADC region. Lungu's team has never publicly responded to the passport claim. No official charges have been filed, but Zambians continue to ask, why would a former president, supposedly proud of his service, hide behind another nation's documents? And if true, what else is being hidden? This section addresses the serious accusation that Lungu used a Zimbabwean diplomatic passport to enter or remain in South Africa, as mentioned in an ex-post by @Forces PFSA. This claim, if true, would have significant legal and diplomatic implications, raising questions about Lungu's status, intentions, and the integrity of his post-presidency conduct. A diplomatic passport is typically reserved for government officials and carries privileges like visa exemptions and immunity in certain contexts. For a former president to use another country's diplomatic passport is highly irregular and could suggest attempts to evade scrutiny or legal accountability. The ex-post claims Lungu overstayed his diplomatic clearance, implying he may have misrepresented his status to South African authorities. This section would explore the plausibility of this allegation, its potential consequences, and the broader context of passport misuse. First, we must consider why Lungu might need a foreign passport. As a former head of state, he would likely retain a Zambian diplomatic passport, which should suffice for international travel. However, if facing legal issues in Zambia, such as the corruption cases mentioned in ex-posts, he might seek alternative documentation to travel discreetly or avoid extradition. Zimbabwe, a neighbor with historical ties to Zambia, could theoretically provide such a passport, especially if Lungu has allies in its government. However, this would require complicity from Zimbabwean officials, a risky proposition given the diplomatic fallout. The logistics of using a fake or foreign passport are complex. South Africa's immigration system, while not infallible, is robust, and high-profile figures like Lungu would likely face scrutiny. The claim that he accessed hospitals under false pretenses further complicates the narrative, suggesting a pattern of deception. Yet, without official confirmation from South African or Zambian authorities, this remains speculative. The section would note that ex-posts, while reflecting public sentiment, are not reliable evidence and could be driven by political agendas. The diplomatic implications are significant. If true, this could strain Zambia-South Africa relations, as it would suggest South Africa knowingly or unknowingly harbored a former leader under false pretenses. It could also implicate Zimbabwe, raising questions about regional cooperation in addressing corruption. The section would explore international laws, such as those governing diplomatic immunity and passport fraud, to assess the legal ramifications for Lungu. Public reaction in Zambia would likely be polarized. Critics would see this as evidence of Lungu's guilt, while supporters might argue it's a fabrication to discredit him. The section would conclude by emphasizing the need for transparency from all involved governments to resolve this allegation, which, if true, could redefine Lungu's post-presidency narrative. Who else is involved? Family, allies, and critics. While Edgar Lungu's name is front and center, he isn't alone in this unfolding drama. Over the past 2 years, his family, close political allies, and former PF officials have all played roles, either defending his legacy or allegedly shielding him from scrutiny. Small Blue Diamond, Tassila Lungu, the daughter and defender. As Lusaka's former deputy mayor, Tassila Lungu has been one of her father's most vocal defenders. In speeches, she's blamed the UPND government for harassing her family, freezing bank accounts, and trying to erase her father's contributions. Studio microphone, Tassila once said publicly, "You don't treat a former president like a criminal unless you fear the truth he carries." Small Blue Diamond, Makibi Zulu, the legal shield. Makibi Zulu, Lungu's longtime legal advisor, has filed multiple court applications in both Zambia and South Africa, challenging government decisions, freezing orders, and border alerts. He's accused of blocking extradition efforts, negotiating secret settlements, and even trying to reclassify Lungu's status as a diplomatic guest. Critics accuse Zulu of personally benefiting from Lungu's silence. Small Blue Diamond, Given Lubinda, the PF loyalist. Lubinda has publicly rejected claims of Lungu's wealth, calling them political fiction aimed at distracting Zambians from real economic issues. He's often appeared alongside Mama Esther Lungu, defending the former First Family. Small Orange Diamond, but not everyone agrees. From the government side, figures like Cornelius Mwitwa and Minister Jack Muyimbu have challenged these defenses. Studio microphone, Mwitwa argued, "This isn't about vengeance, it's about accountability. If someone misused power, even a president, we must ask questions. The divide is clear. Family and allies say he's being hunted. Critics and officials say he's hiding something." Either way, Edgar Lungu's name has become a lightning rod, not just for political debate, but for Zambia's ongoing struggle with legacy, power, and justice. This section examines the network of individuals connected to Lungu's alleged activities, including his family, political allies, and critics driving the narrative. The ex-posts mention Lungu's family following him to South Africa and facing a serious number of cases related to corruption, land hijacking, and money laundering. This suggests a broader ecosystem of actors implicated in or affected by the controversy. Family. The ex-posts specifically note that Lungu's family joined him in South Africa in February 2025, facing allegations of financial crimes. In many African political contexts, families of leaders are often implicated in corruption scandals, either as active participants or as proxies for asset concealment. Lungu's wife, Esther, and their children could be central to these allegations. For instance, they might be accused of holding assets like the alleged mansion or luxury cars. This section would explore the role of political families in Zambia, where patronage networks often extend to relatives. It would also assess whether the family's legal troubles are substantiated or part of a broader campaign to target Lungu through his loved ones. Allies. Lungu's tenure as president was supported by a network of loyalists within the Patriotic Front, PF party, and beyond. Some allies may have facilitated his alleged move to South Africa or the acquisition of assets. For example, business associates or political operatives could have acted as intermediaries for property purchases or financial transactions. The section would speculate cautiously on who these allies might be, drawing on historical context about Lungu's inner circle, such as key PF figures or regional contacts. It would also consider whether allies in Zimbabwe, as implied by the passport allegation, are involved, though this remains unverified. Critics. The allegations against Lungu are likely driven by political opponents, anti-corruption activists, and media outlets. The ex-posts, for instance, come from accounts like at Forces PFSA and at CrisExcel 102, which appear critical of Lungu. These critics may include members of the ruling United Party for National Development, UPND, led by President Hichilema, who have a vested interest in exposing Lungu's alleged misdeeds to justify their anti-corruption agenda. The section would analyze the motivations behind these criticisms, noting that political rivalries in Zambia are intense and allegations can be weaponized. It would also consider the role of South African entities like the Forces PFSA group, which demands answers from Home Affairs, suggesting cross-border activism. This section would explore the dynamics of this network, showing how family, allies, and critics shape the narrative around Lungu. It would highlight the interplay of loyalty, betrayal, and political strategy, emphasizing that the truth likely lies in a complex web of interests rather than a single narrative. Government reaction and public debate. As these allegations surrounding Edgar Lungu's secret South African lifestyle continue to circulate, the Zambian government has been forced to respond. So far, President Hakainde Hichilema has remained largely silent, choosing not to address the details directly. But his key ministers, including Information Minister Cornelius Mwitwa and Home Affairs Minister Jack Muyimbu, have made several statements, each carefully worded. Studio microphone, Cornelius Mwitwa said, "Let us not be distracted by smoke and mirrors. This government is focused on service delivery, not vendettas. Studio microphone, Muyimbu added, if any Zambian, including a former president, is found to have broken international law, we will act within legal frameworks, not emotions. Small blue diamond, but what are Zambians saying? Social media tells a different story. On platforms like Facebook, Twitter/X, and TikTok, citizens debate daily. Was Lungu unfairly targeted? Are the accusations real or a political witch hunt? Should former presidents live with this level of scrutiny? Hashtags like #Lungu exposed, #Justice for Zambia, #Fake passport scandal have all trended in Lusaka. Small orange diamond, a divided nation. In downtown Lusaka, we spoke with ordinary citizens. Studio microphone, one taxi driver told us, let him enjoy his retirement. He served his time. Studio microphone, but a university student replied, no one is above the law. Even a former president must answer to the people. Meanwhile, opposition members accuse HH's government of weaponizing investigations, while UPND supporters argue transparency is finally being served. In the end, Lungu has become more than a man. He's a symbol of what power gives and what it hides. This section analyzes how Zambian and South African authorities have responded to the allegations and how the public has reacted. The ex-post by @Forces PFSA mentions a letter to South Africa's Home Affairs demanding answers about Lungu's entry and status, indicating pressure on officials to act. Meanwhile, Zambian authorities, particularly anti-corruption agencies, may be investigating Lungu and his family, as implied by the legal cases mentioned. Zambian government. President Hichilema's administration has prioritized anti-corruption efforts, targeting figures associated with the previous PF government. If Lungu is indeed in South Africa, Zambia may seek his extradition if formal charges are filed. The section would explore Zambia's legal mechanisms for pursuing former leaders, such as the ACC or Financial Intelligence Center, and the challenges of prosecuting high-profile figures. It would also consider diplomatic constraints, as Zambia would need South Africa's cooperation, which could be complicated by regional politics. South African government. South Africa's response, as demanded in the ex-post, is critical. If Lungu entered under false pretenses or overstayed diplomatic clearance, Home Affairs would face scrutiny for oversight failures. The section would examine South Africa's policies on foreign nationals, especially former leaders, and its history of hosting controversial figures. It would also assess whether South Africa would cooperate with Zambia or prioritize diplomatic neutrality. Public debate. In Zambia, public sentiment is likely divided. Lungu supporters may view the allegations as politically motivated, while critics see them as evidence of systemic corruption. The ex-posts reflect a critical stance, with phrases like drained the government of Zambia suggesting public frustration. Social media amplifies these debates, but it also risks spreading misinformation. The section would explore how Zambians discuss Lungu's legacy online and in traditional media, drawing on broader themes of inequality and governance. In South Africa, the debate may focus on immigration policies and the country's role as a haven for political figures. This section would conclude by highlighting the tension between official silence and public speculation, urging governments to provide clarity to restore trust and accountability. Final reflection, legacy or luxury. In the story of Edgar Lungu, two powerful narratives continue to compete. One tells the tale of a former head of state who served his country during turbulent times, oversaw infrastructure development, and maintained peace in Zambia's democratic tradition. The other reveals a quieter story of wealth accumulated in silence, of questionable assets abroad, of unanswered questions. Both may hold true, but the real question is not just what Lungu did after leaving office. It's what his story reveals about Zambia itself. Small blue diamond, can a country balance respect for former leaders with accountability? Small blue diamond, should political power come with immunity or scrutiny? Small blue diamond, and when does legacy turn into luxury? At the people's expense? In a continent where many former presidents retire in silence or exile, Lungu's story is not unique, but it is symbolic. Symbolic of a generation of African leadership that is slowly being replaced by younger voices demanding more transparency and citizens asking harder questions. The silence around Lungu's mansion, the mystery of the cars, the blurred passport photo, all point to one thing: power never disappears. It just changes location. As Zambia moves forward toward 2026 and beyond, the debate over Edgar Lungu's hidden life may not end soon. The concluding section reflects on what the allegations mean for Edgar Lungu's legacy. Was he a leader who served Zambia to the best of his ability, or has his post-presidency revealed a pursuit of luxury at the nation's expense? This question encapsulates the broader themes of the chapter: accountability, wealth, and the public's right to know. Lungu's presidency was marked by economic struggles, including rising debt and inflation, which critics attribute to mismanagement. The allegations of a mansion, luxury cars, and a fake passport paint a picture of personal enrichment, contrasting sharply with Zambia's poverty. If true, these claims could tarnish Lungu's legacy, framing him as a leader who prioritized self-interest over public good. However, without evidence, they risk being dismissed as political attacks, leaving his legacy contested. The section would explore the concept of legacy in African politics, where leaders are often judged not just by their tenure, but by their post-office conduct. It would compare Lungu to figures like Kenya's Uhuru Kenyatta, who transitioned quietly, versus Zuma, whose scandals persist. The luxury narrative, whether fact or fiction, reflects public anxieties about elite privilege in a region grappling with inequality. Ultimately, this section would call for truth and accountability, urging investigations to clarify Lungu's actions. It would leave readers with a question: is Lungu a victim of political vendettas, or does his lifestyle reveal a betrayal of Zambia's trust? This is InspirAfrica Official. Thank you for watching. If you believe in truth, balance, and uncovering the full story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.